Improve it. Improve it. Podcast. Hey peeps, this month on the show, the month of August, we are talking all about abundance. I want you to stop and think for just a moment about what this word abundance means to you. I want you to go ahead, take a moment, and think of that one word that comes to mind when you think about abundance. Now that you have that word, I want you to hold it close to you as we go through our time together today, because I can tell you that abundance can be found. It's a mindset. And let me tell you, when you operate from a place of abundance, miracles happen. Your world begins to shift. You start to see things from a new perspective, and you start to live life to the fullest with your highest consciousness front of mind. For me, abundance means feeling grateful for everything I have right now, in this moment, not 2 hours from now, right now. I see, I feel, and experience the joys I have. The electricity that is powering my home to give you this recording, the technology that is bringing it to you, the beautiful podcast chair that I get to sit on to talk to you, the amazing Improve It peeps who listen in week after week, the amazing Improve It podcast team who helps this all come together. And I have to say, one of my greatest joys is watching this podcast come to life, hearing you listening to it, and knowing that you're bettering yourselves and the world around you. Now, today's guest is such an abundant leader and human being. She's a thought leader, a mentor, and when she founded the Simply Be agency, I was a client of her and her brilliant teams. I have followed Jess for years, and I've watched her transformation unfold. She lives this perspective of abundance on a daily basis and is somebody I truly admire. Jessica Zweig, our guest today, has been described as a voice of her time by Marianne Williamson, which we talk about in the show, and a personal branding expert by Forbes. A serial entrepreneur, Jessica founded 3 businesses and recently sold her agency, Simply Be, the nation's premier personal branding company. We're going to talk about that today too. Her first book was the #1 bestseller, Be, a no bullshit guide to increasing your self-worth and your net worth by simply being yourself. Her forthcoming release, The Light Work, Reclaim Your Feminine Power, Live Your Cosmic Truth, Illuminate the World, hits shelves August 2024. She's the host of the top-ranked podcast, The Spiritual Hustler, and Jessica is a sought-after speaker for companies like Google, Mindvalley, Create and Cultivate, Nike, and a leader of a global community of spiritual women, and hosts sold-out retreats on business, branding, and spirituality all across the world. Now, if you clicked play on today's show, it's because you want to unlock your own potential. You want to inspire yourself and the world around you, and you are ready to unlock and, most importantly, remember your soul's purpose and reclaim your power. If this sounds like you, grab a pen and paper. Jessica is giving us all the answers and more. Get ready to be illuminated because we are shedding light all over this show. Without further ado, let's get to improving it with Jessica Zweig. Jessica Zweig. Jessica mother effing Zweig. Okay. Welcome to the Improve It podcast.
Erin Deal, you are the real deal. You make me so happy when I am in your presence, when I witness you on the socials. Like, to drop in with you is just a joy and a gift to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh my God. Well, it's a long time coming, and
Yes,
this is
it
the
is.
perfect time.
Yeah.
This is the perfect time. We have so much to talk about, but I want to start off just with the overarching theme of the month. The theme of this month's show is abundance. So keeping that in mind, what is an intention? It could be one word, it could be two words. What's an intention that you want to set for you to give the audience, for you to receive? It could be whatever you want, but what's your intention for this conversation?
My intention for this conversation is my intention for money and abundance as well, which is simply to allow to be a vessel to let it flow through today.
Mm-hmm. I'm here for that. Like I'm got my hands out in receiving mode. Let's do it. Let's allow. When you hear that word abundance, what does that word bring up for you? What words come to mind?
Birthright.
Ooh. Okay, Queen.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were born to be abundant. We were born already abundant. We've
Yes.
just been conditioned and programmed by society, our parents, the media, culture, schooling, that we have to work so hard for it or that we're not worthy of it to begin with. And abundance is why we came here, to live not just in abundance with wealth, but in abundance in love and connection and peace and harmony, oneness, joy. That to me is all of our birthrights, to experience the abundance in everything.
Oh my God. I love that. And I got a little privy to your new book. We're going to talk about that in a minute. And I know abundance is such a theme for you just in general, but in this book specifically. So it's the perfect theme, the perfect time to have you on this show. So I want to take it back. This might be a triggering year, 2020. Okay. Yeah. So that's how you and I connected, I think, in the beginning of 2020.
We did.
And we started working together in 2020. I got to work with your amazing team, Alexa, my soul sister.
Love you so much too.
I love her so much. And then Jenna, our VP of client experience, and Nora have this special relationship. You changed our branding, you changed our website. But that was such a crazy period for leadership and for leading a team. So when you think about that time, I want to just start there because that was really the beginning of how I got to know you. What comes up for you when you think about 2020? And we're going to fast forward, but I want to start there. What comes up for you during that time?
So in March of 2020, I took a meeting with my then finance team. They were running my books, my P&L. They were doing my bookkeeping, invoicing, whatnot, like payroll. And the CEO of that company got on a Zoom call with me and told me, you're going to fail. Your company's going to go down. And we're going to have to focus on the clients we believe are going to make it through this. And that's not you. And that's actually when I fired them and brought in my husband to help me with my money. And I grew 65% in COVID that year. And I equate the end of that year, 2021, the beginning. If I were to imagine myself at the end of that year, looked like I just got out of a boxing match. Like my face was puffy and bloody and swollen. Like my knuckles were gripping the steering wheel of that little baby fighter airplane that I was keeping afloat in the sky. And then I went into 2021 where I launched my first book, B. And that was the year that my business doubled and led me to my burnout. And that's a huge part of my story in my book, as you know. But I would say 2020 was sort of the beginning of what I call the sprint up a mountain, literally carrying the sky on my shoulders, holding up the sky. Because to be a small business owner in 2020 was a dogfight. It was brutal to survive. And survival, is something I feel is really written into our DNA as a collective anyway. And that's really when I started working 100-hour weeks to kill myself to sustain my business and grow it, which was insane. And, I think we're all still sort of reeling from the trauma. Like none of us really, truly, I think, have metabolized the pandemic. We haven't grieved fully what we lost, even though for many people it was a recalibration and a great time to reassess what we wanted our lives to look like. And a lot of beautiful things shifted in that time, but it was deeply traumatic. And I didn't really pick my head up from the ground and start to see my life clearly until 2023.
Yeah. Same. And I've talked a lot about that on this show, but it's so interesting that you said that you felt like you were carrying all this weight on your shoulders. And I know from the parts of your book that I have read, you talk about physical and emotional pain. And I also had that as a leader in 2020, being a completely in-person business, being a brand new mom. My mom had a stroke and almost died. Like there was so many layers, and I actually developed chronic shoulder pain. When you think of the spiritual symbolism of that,
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Is wild.
Yeah. Everything that manifests itself in our bodies physically, whether it's pain or a sickness, is rooted in an emotional imbalance.
For
Always.
sure. Now, okay, so we get to 2021. You released Speed, which was an amazing book. I have dog-eared it, posted, noted it, done all the things, right? But then we get to 2022, 2023, and at the end of 2023, you sold your business. How does that feel?
It feels amazing. It feels complete. It feels freeing. I like to say, back to that boxing match. I left it all on the floor. I had nothing left to prove with that business. I ran it for 7 years from nothing. I started that business in debt, scaled it to a multimillion-dollar company in less than 5 years, sold it 2 years, later, and just didn't have anything left to prove to myself or anyone. And now I am really on purpose with what I feel like I've always been meant to do, which is to empower women to be leaders of a new earth, of a new time, of a new collective consciousness. And so, yeah, it was divine time that transaction took place. I'm really proud of it. I'm really happy with where we are now.
Yeah. And you're still a part of it. You're just on the board, right? Is that right? And
I'm executive vice president of personal branding at Hawk Media now. And I am basically just focused on business development. I have a very fluid life and schedule now within the company. They really have allowed me to fly free and launch this book and do the work that I'm doing, coaching women and hosting retreats and hosting programs online through, my platform. And it's the best of both. And I know that sounds like a little too good to be true, but it's been a lot. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
The transition has been hard. When you sell your company, you surrender to a new culture and a new operating system and all of the leadership, and it's no longer yours. And so that has also been its own challenge, but I've embraced it because it's what I asked for at the same time.
Okay. I love it so much. So I just loved the Simply Be family. I've loved your journey. I love the team, the people who make it up. And I'm so proud of you all. Just in witnessing this, like seeing the journey from 2020 to now is so cool. And then one of the coolest things that happened was in 2022. This is actually wild because I don't know if you know this part. I was on my way to Costa Rica for a friend of mine's 40th birthday. And I get off the plane and I see this sign for Jessica Zweig. And I was like, there's like not that many Jessica Zweigs in this world. And so I took the picture, but I had made a vow to myself to not be on my phone, like not on email, not on social the whole trip. So I kept it. I was like, when I get back, I'll reach out to you. So funny because this guy who held the sign was like, somebody took the picture of this sign and you're probably like, who's this wackadoo? But it was so wonderful because you were actually there to retreat yourself to write what is now this amazing book.
Yeah. I remember so we both landed at the same airport, a couple hours apart, apparently. And I get to my little driver who's holding the sign with my name. And he said, somebody recognized your name. Some girl got really excited and took a photo of this picture. Are you famous? Like, I was like, no, who? And I went a whole week I was there for a month on my writing sabbatical to write the light work. And then you texted me the picture a week. I was like, oh my God, stop. That was Erin Deal.
Yes.
It was perfect.
Wild.
It was so wild.
Can I tell you this really quick? Because I mentioned I had to go through a healing journey to write the book that I just wrote. And it was all about releasing the emotions that stored in my body as physical pain, getting back to myself. So I had turned in the manuscript when I saw you. Okay. Then what happened in Costa Rica, not smart. I got a concussion. Okay. That made me really dig deep and not just like talk the talk of self-care and self-love, but like walk the walk of self-care and self-love. So that trip was such just like a spiritual awakening for me in many ways.
Yeah.
And the fact that literally there was a sign there with your name on it. It's just a sign, like the thing that we were in our assignments.
I have the full body chills right now.
Me too. And that is wild. It was just wild. So to see you now, to know, not at that point in 2022, the world didn't know you were leaving, you were going to sell Simply Be. And to see this transition is just so beautiful. So I want to talk about this book because I have full body chills because I've read about 35 pages. You did a similar experience. A similar thing happened to you in Egypt, the fall of 2022. So about a year and a half before you sold Simply Be.
Yes, exactly.
Can you give us the Cliff Notes version of what this experience did and how it activated your higher consciousness? I know there's so much in detail, and everyone here must pre-order or get the book because actually you will be able to get it the day after this releases. So this story is so beautiful, but can you give us a Cliff Notes version of what happened in Egypt?
Yes. Thank you for starting here because it's such an important part of my story. But that experience in Egypt wasn't just for me. What happened in Egypt inspired this entire book because I got messages in that country from the goddesses, from the extraterrestrial galactic family that I believe I am a part of to bring to humanity. That was really what I came home with. So before I talk about what happened there, let me just back up and tell you what 2022 was like for me. Back to the explosion of my business during COVID, launched the book in 21, my first book. I doubled my team. I went from 9 people to 25 people in less than 11 months. As a small business, if you know that sort of extent of scale, everything breaks when you grow that fast. My people, my process, my systems. I was literally trying to launch a book, run a business, grow a business, have a life, take care of my body. None of it was working. And by the time 22 began, I crashed. I hit severe, full-on burnout, mental, emotional, physical, spiritual depletion, and I was diagnosed with depression. I couldn't leave my house for a few months. I couldn't shower. I couldn't socialize. Like I was diagnosed with depression from the burnout. I went on a healing journey to heal my burnout. Halfway through the year, I worked with a doctor, a holistic psychiatrist, put me through a ketamine protocol, which was life-changing. What ketamine basically does, while it's a psychedelic, it reduces the inflammation in your brain so that you can start to see your life clearly again, and it does heal depression. But when that treatment was over, I went right back into the hustle. I went right back into the hamster wheel of my business. I had no choice. So by the time I got on the plane to fly to Cairo in November of 2022, I was actually burnt out, but on a cellular level. I call it the rage against the machine called my life. I was dark. I wanted to burn it all down. I literally told my husband at one point before I got on that plane, I'm like, I want to fucking close the whole thing down. I don't want to fucking do this anymore. Like I was such a rageful person. That's where my burnout had led me into rage. And so I go to Egypt. This trip had been planned a year before, and that's not a vacation, okay? That's a spiritual pilgrimage. You're up at 4 in the morning most days. You're going through this crazy country. You're going to temples every day. You're having these intense experiences in these temples because these temples are alive. The walls are alive, and there's things happen to you in those temples that are out of this world, and you're not on any medicine, you're not taking drugs. You feel like you are, though. You have quantum expanded experiences. And in one of the temples, Temple Hathor, who's the goddess of pleasure and bliss and play. Hathor is my girl. She is, it's called Dendera, her temple. I was in one of her like alcove rooms, and I pressed my whole body up against one of the walls. My higher self just told me, just press your whole body up against it. And within a matter of seconds, I mean, this is a true story. This was my story. This happened. I got hit by what could only be defined as like white lightning. And the second this happened to my body, my whole auric field started to expand. And it expanded beyond the temple, beyond Egypt, beyond the planet. I felt like my whole body transcend into another place in space and time. And I started to hear voices. And literally, I heard what I consider to be the Pleiadians, which are an extraterrestrial star family. They're connected to Hathor. I've done some research on the placement of Hathor on the planet. It's directly correlated to the Pleiadian constellation in our galaxy. Point is, I heard these voices speaking to me in rapid succession. And they basically said to me, they didn't base the verbatim, they said to me, Jessica, you have missed the point of this human experience. This human experience is for your enjoyment. It is for your bliss. It is for your pleasure. Every single moment to be in a human body is to have fun. That's what they told me. Every single moment is a gift, and you're missing it. And not only did you incarnate as a human, which is such a blessing, but you incarnated as a woman. And you incarnated as a piece of us, because we are the goddess and you are one of us. You are a piece of the goddess. And you must take this information back to as many women as possible, because they all need to know this too. And they are the leaders of this new rising of the feminine frequency, which you are a leader of, but you are not the only leader of. We are all the leaders of this. You have to tell everyone you can. And I peeled my body back off the wall. And I wrote everything down in my notes app, literally, because I was like, I can't forget what they told me. Like, I need to capture this. And a couple crazy things happened after that. I just my body kind of freaked out after that experience. I got really, really sick that night, was shaking, freezing cold. I couldn't get warm for hours. I started channeling light language in my bed at my hotel. I'd never spoken light language. It's basically like speaking in tongues. This came through me, came over me. It was wild. Egypt is like no joke. And my whole system, I believe, in those few days after that light body activation in that temple upgraded. Like, things started to alchemize and move out and move in. And my DNA started to come online. And I felt like I was born again. And I literally say, when I went to Egypt, I died. Like, the version of Jessica that hustled and gripped and lived in scarcity, even though I was making a lot of money, I was still in scarcity, girl. That whole identity dissolved in a matter of minutes, but I didn't, my flesh, my bone, my blood, my human skin couldn't process it because it was so much light. And that's why I got sick, and I had to channel and move things out through vibration and frequency through the language. And I came back home from that trip to Egypt, and I was new. Everything in my life from that moment forward started to change. And I found my true message, and I channeled the light work, this book that I wrote in 3 months after that trip. The whole book is obviously a book about what it means to be a light worker today, a roadmap back home to your cosmic truth, to that truth, that it's a divine blessing to be a human today. And it's our responsibility to live our light. And we find the light through the dark. We have to go through polarizing experiences on this planet to remember who the F we really are, because we have truly forgotten. I forgot. And, here I am through my own personal stories with this book, but offering a roadmap for the everyday woman, whether you're super spiritual or not. I do believe you'll find so many truths in this book, so much mirroring in this book of your experience as a woman on this planet too. And yeah, that's the long-winded answer to what happened in Egypt. I could go on, but it was the most life-changing experience of my life going there.
Oh my God. When I read it, like you remember a place and a time, like when you read something, where you are, where you're sitting. I was sitting on my back patio in Charleston with sun around me, with palm trees around me, like just outside, right? Which you and I lived in Chicago. I lived there 15 years. I don't know how long ago.
20
years. And I was just sitting there and I felt through your words, your activation. And I love that it culminates in this homecoming to yourself and this reminder of, and tell me if you believe this, because this is sort of where I land on a spiritual path is, our souls all have an assignment and then when we get in the body, we get amnesia, and our life's purpose is to remember who we are.
Amen. Well,
okay.
Exactly.
Okay. I didn't get to finish the book, but I will tell you that to me, and I know you're friends with Marianne Williamson, you've helped grow her brand. Her book was a homecoming for me as well. That's where I even got these principles that I've returned to love. Like I've seen that time and time again. And the fact that you're reactivating this in a new way, you're bringing your own stories and your path through it, Jess, it's so cool. And you are going to activate so many people.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. I hope you feel that.
I do feel that I'm get crying. I'm getting emotional. I had this, so I've been spending, you get it. It's in your Google Doc for a year and a half, right? It's you and the digital book in your own white screen document. So I handed the manuscript in, it's gone through its edits. And then I get my own advanced reader copy in the mail about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I started to read it. I was like, oh, yay, my book's here. I get to read my own book and hold it in my hands. How fun. And then I start reading it. And this experience is not what I thought it was going to be, reading my own book. I'm lying in my bed and my heart is racing. I start getting sick to my stomach.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't believe this book is going to be read by people. I was terrified all of a sudden. Right. And I was anxious for days. I didn't want to read it. I was like, fuck, I can't believe I put this in a book and I'm actually publishing this. This is so raw and exposing and incredibly naked. And then I was meditating and I just got the message from Spirit, and it said to me, Jessica, this has nothing to do with you. Get out of the way, girl.
That's it.
Literally, get out of the way. You were the channel. You let it come through. You put it on a page. It's not about you anymore. It's about the woman who will read this book. And Marianne is a really dear friend of mine, and she's my idol, and I don't say that in a gross way. Like I freaking love Marianne Williamson. Yeah. She's also deeply human. We've gotten to know each other. She's like our friend. She's a girl's girl. Yes. You love her. She's so freaking real. And she endorsed my book. She called me a voice of the times. Like she said some really insane things.
I've read that, which is like, do you know how freaking cool that is? Do you take that in? I hope you receive that shit, Jess, because that is wild. Wild. Like that book was read by millions of people.
I know. Listen, I feel like we all have a story to tell. I feel like and this is a chapter in my book towards the end, which you haven't gotten to, called mentorship. And it's not the sexiest word, but what I redefine mentorship and how we find women who hold the torch of light, whether that's professional mentors, spiritual mentors, virtual mentors, galactic mentors. Like we hold these torches of light as women on this planet today. And it's our job to light the torch and light her torch and she lights her torch. And we carry on this legacy of light. And we're all disciples of the Great Mother because we're her daughters, making us sisters. No matter how old we are, where we are in our journey, we all have this responsibility as women to heal the planet,
Yes.
frankly,
Yes.
and come together. And so I definitely do receive those words. And, I'm here on my own timeline. I wouldn't be who I am without the influence of spiritual voices and thought leaders like Marianne Williamson. And if I can play my own part in being a voice and a teacher for anyone else, like my work here is done.
Yes.
I came here to do, I did what I came here to do.
You did.
And
you're doing it. You're doing
I
it.
hope so. I hope so.
You
This
are.
book is.
It's so I want to talk just a quick moment about the book itself, because you talk about various stages of light work, and you start with dawn, which explains the concepts of light and dark. So you're giving us these different phases. What can we learn from dawn? Give us like the Cliff's Notes version of dawn.
So the dawn takes you through my own definition of light and dark. Light, as I define it, as a lot of spiritual teachers define it, as a lot of spiritual scientists define it, as the Palladians define it, light is simply information. Information is coded in our cells and our DNA. We have literal light encoded filaments in our DNA strands that have been dormant and sleeping. And that's why many of us on this planet are in fear, or we're numb, or we're sick, or we're keeping ourselves small, or we're feeling unworthy of abundance. Like it's simply not the truth. There's lack of information there. The information that we possess that is light represents truly infinite, limitless possibility. And dark is not evil. Dark is not toxic and, scary. Dark is what is defined as lack of information. That's it. That's the definition of dark as I define it. And what happens in the dark when the lights are off, when we can't see, we assume things, we judge things, we fear things. That's where, hate and ignorance and anti-Semitism and homophobia and racism and bullying, like that's when we were literally shut off to the truth of this planet, this universe, which is love. That's what light illuminates, is love. And what happens when we ignore the dark, when we don't turn on the light, that's when it gets dangerous. And I say in my book, while the aspects of hatred and homophobia and anti-Semitism and xenophobia and racism, all of it, those are the most extreme offenders of the dark, for sure.
Yeah.
But the average woman possesses her own darkness, and it usually shows up in competitiveness with one another, gossip, self-loathing, insecurity, scarcity. And my book is here to help turn on the light for all of us to see the truth of who we are. And that's really the dawn. That's like the sun is rising. Like, let's start to open our eyes to just how incredibly magnificent and limitless and powerful we actually are, and how sovereign we are in our own bodies and our own power. And at the same time, how connected we all are too as a collective humanity. And so that's the dawn. And then it goes into your own inner light to start to turn on the light switch in your connection to your body, your emotions, your personal power. Outer light is the second section, which really opens up how we bring this light into the world in the most challenging aspects of the human experience, which is relationship, family, partnership, friendship, career, and money. And then the last section of the book is called Future Light, which is really one of my favorite sections of the book, which is all about what we do with our light now that we know it. How do we make this world better? How do we take it into our missions, our legacies? How do we help heal the planet, Mother Gaia? How do we really create a legacy of other young women coming up behind us and be the living, walking miracle every day?
Yeah.
Which is the light worker.
It is so well thought out. And I have to tell you, when you were talking about the dawn, and you were talking about activating the light and the dark, right? And just describing those two things. I have to tell you, and this is a testament to you. When I met you, I was just starting my spiritual journey. I was on my own mindfulness path. And I'll never forget, Jess, we were sitting in the conference room of what was your long time Simply Be office, not the newer version, the other one. And I was like, yeah, I think I need to get in front of my business. I've always like stood behind it and not shown my face. I've played small. And Simply Be was the catalyst to change it all.
Oh, I have the chills again.
Yeah. And it really did help me step into my light. And I won't say like I was completely in the dark, but I think I would fall into that pattern. And so if anyone listening right now has any questions, if this work works, it does. And that was even before you wrote the book, sister. Okay. Because it's wonderful. The weaving of how you have come back in and out of our lives and here at Improve It. Our team loves Simply Be as well. We call our audience the Improve It peeps. And if they could leave today with one actionable item to step into the light, what would that be?
Wow, it's a really, really good question. Well, first of all, go get my book.
Yep.
The Lightwork is available wherever books are sold. I would say, we live in such a noisy world. And science says we have 80,000 thoughts a day, and they're typically the same thoughts every day.
Mm-hmm.
And that is our programming, right? That's what we've been unconsciously conditioned to think based upon our environment, our habits, our trauma. And simply getting still, developing a relationship with your own higher self, because you have one, that is your true self, that is not at all conditioned by the paradigm that we call reality, which is just one version of reality, one dimension. It's not the full truth. And I'm not saying go pick up a meditation practice that is so like played out if that doesn't work for you, but find anything, whether it's taking a walk in nature, going to Costa Rica, being with yourself. We avoid sitting with ourselves and being in relationship with ourselves. Because I really believe, I don't believe I know this, what you were saying about working with Simply Be and you stepping out in front of the business and being seen. You've written your book. You have this podcast. You're now influencing so many lives that you couldn't have done unless you were willing to step forward and be seen in the light, to stand in your own light. And every single person on this planet has something somebody else needs. You don't need to be Oprah Winfrey. You don't need to reach millions or billions. You could reach 4 or 40 or 400. It doesn't matter. You just need to know you're needed. And so thank you for the reflection that Simply Be was a catalyst for you. But I can imagine, Erin, you spent time with yourself more than anything to really understand your mission here and accepted your assignment. And that doesn't happen without really getting still and clear and connected to that higher self. And however you find it, again, read my book. There's a whole bunch of ways to connect to it. But that would be my advice, is to cultivate that relationship with your higher self. And she or he will always know the way.
Well, now I'm crying. That's great. Now I have 6 fake eyelashes left on my eye. Okay.
Beautiful.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for that. And I mean, I just so believe in that. And I can see the work that you have done to bring the light to your life, and you're doing that for others. And I definitely, I listen, she went deep sometimes. Okay. She had to. there was some shit that needed reprocessing. And I was afraid. I was constantly afraid of sitting with myself. But now it's my most cherished moment of every day. And I love that action item. I love that step. Jess, I don't want this to end, but we have to. So listen, if you could say your it, we say it and prove it, your it is your mission, your purpose, your thing. What would your it be? What is Jessica Zweig's it?
God, so good. You're so good. What a good what all these questions.
Yeah, just what's your meaning of your life? That's really
Well, I have a chapter in my book actually on this called Mission, which is different than your purpose, like what you were really born here to do and why you are here. So I guess I'll just simply say I have a little tattoo of a key on my heart, right here on my clavicle, which you can't see, but it's there. And there's a key on the cover of my book. Keys really have significance to me. I'm going to answer your question. The key is a symbol of the priestess. It's an archetype that I've been working with for years. She's different than the goddess. She's her own energy. And when I learned about her, I was told that her element is still water, not just water, but still water, because what she does is she's a reflector. She's a mirror so that you can see the divinity within yourself. She is the keeper of the keys because her job is to unlock the divinity in you. And going back to what I said earlier, it actually has nothing to do with her. She's like, don't look at me. Don't worship me. Worship yourself. Look at how beautiful, magnificent, needed you are. And so I think my it has always been to be able to reflect back to people their divinity, their necessary responsibility they have to be themselves and to shine their light. I do that through branding. I've mastered that in a certain way, but at the core of my work has always been about personal empowerment. And so that's my it, is to be your mirror and get out of the way.
Oh my God. That is brilliant. And I got to tell you, like, I've always seen the key, and now knowing that significance is so beautiful. Just tell everybody they're going to want to find you if they already don't know where to find you. Where can they find you? Obviously, we're going to put the book links in the show notes, all these things, but tell them and they'll come over.
Come on over, say hi. Say hi. I'm very, very active on social media, which obviously you'd imagine it's like in the world of social media. JessicaZweig.com is where you can go learn all about me. You can go to thelightworkbook.com to buy the book. You can also go to Amazon. It's all on sale everywhere, Barnes & Noble, wherever books are sold. Support your local bookshops. And come say hi to me on Instagram at Jessica Zweig. I have my own podcast as well called The Spiritual Hustler. And I just would love to hear from your community because I believe like attracts like. And so if you're in Erin Deal's world, you're the real deal too. And I'm sure you're an amazing human being. And I would love to connect with any of you. Let's rise together.
Yes. Go connect with Jess. It is a wonderful, wonderful thing to witness. I'm so glad I got to be a part of your journey. I'm so proud of you.
I'm so glad you were part of mine.
Yeah. And I cannot wait for everybody listening to grab a copy of Lightwork.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you all.
Thank you. Improve it, peeps. I loved this conversation. Jess is just this like calming voice in my life. And I really am so glad that you got to experience her brilliance, her light, what she is doing for our world. And so here's today's homework. Here is today's homework. I want you to take time for yourself today. Sit with yourself in silence. It doesn't have to be meditation. It could just be sitting outside for 10 minutes, being alone with your thoughts. That was the actionable step that Jessica gave us here today, to take time to get to know you. Don't run away from the brilliant, wonderful, amazing version of you. That inner light, that inner wisdom, that's what makes you great. So get to know him, her, or they today, starting today. Make sure you get your copy of Lightwork, which we'll have in the show notes. And my friends, if you would leave us a 5-star review and tell us how this show impacted you in the comments, it would mean the world to me. We need more reviews in our community here to bring more amazing Jess like Jess to the show. Okay, my Improve It peeps, you know what I'm going to say. Keep failing, keep improving, because this world needs that very special it that only you can bring. I'll see you next time. Improve It. Improve It Podcast.